Welcome to today's video. Today's video is a review of the Easee Home and Easee Charge charger. Now, if you're in the market of getting a home charger or an installer looking to install these, it's really important that you really look at what the aspects of these do, right down from the apps to how easy they are to install and what other hardware you might need or what other hardware you may be able to attach to in the future. Now, if you are interested in that, then check out my channel's playlist all about EV chargers, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now, if you're a user and you're wanting to get one of these installed, then go to evnic.com/charge, where I'll help you find a local installer near you to get one of these chargers installed. Now, the Easee charger is available in two variants that look identical to this, and they're pretty much exactly the same hardware inside, they're just locked on software. So you have the Easee Home, which allows 3 of these devices to be run together on one circuit, or you've got the Easee Charge, which allows 101 of these chargers to be run off one circuit. It's sold in 5 colours. It's sold in this black, it's sold in a white, it's sold in a grey, red and blue. So it's sold in a pretty wide variety of colours. Now, this unit at the moment in the Home or the Easee Charge version does not have pen fault detection. Now, I do have a pretty strong inclination that there's probably going to be a pen fault version of this coming out, and when it does come out, I will re-review it and re-look at it. It does, however, have built-in RCD and DC leakage protection, so that you don't need a separate circuit for that. But if you are on a certain earthing system at home, you may need an earth rod or a separate device that can deal with pen fault system at the moment if you're wanting one of these. Now, it's sold as a 3-phase only unit, but this has a couple of advantages. It means that it's future proof, so you can wire it up single phase now, or you could wire it up with 3-phase cable now and only connect the single phase up, and then if you ever do get a upgrade to 3-phase in the future, the charger is pre-wired and ready to go, which I quite like the idea of having that available for the future, because if you're going to have multiple electric vehicle chargers or a heat pump possibly in the future, you may need a grid upgrade to 3-phase, which if you already have a charger that's wired up and ready to do it, just makes things a lot easier. Now, it's only available in this untethered version at the moment, and that is pretty much the only way they're going to go, because you can lock a cable into this with the software to keep a cable permanently locked in, which we'll get to later on in the video. Now, it's also OCPP, which I'll explain after I've unboxed it. Now, I quite like the Easee packaging. It's very simple, nice little box with the outline of the unit here, here and here. A little display window so you can see the chargers in there. And if we open up the box, we're greeted by some wasteful paper saying congratulations for buying the unit. Then we have the actual unit itself, something that is useful, which is a quick guide, which they could have just printed that other thing in there. A user guide, which, let's be honest, most people won't read. Now, if we take the unit here, we've got how to activate it and stuff like that. But before we do that, let's flip it over here. And what we're greeted with here is this key. Now, this key is how we're going to separate the unit at the back here to the unit at the front here. So let's just do that by lifting up this cover here, popping this in here. Right, so now let's just separate these into the bits that we want to explain first. So let's just pull this out here. This is the main charge unit that we'll talk about in a minute. Just separate that by pulling that away. Let's move this out of the way for a second, and let's just have a look what we've got here. So first of all, we've got an insulation kit. Very important. It's all the bits that you're going to need for screwing this all up, including some grommets that you're going to need for blanking off plates and pulling in cables. You've got some screws, fixing screws to fix the unit together, which is nice to see. Now, I want to go into this back unit here, because it is extremely clever. Now, we've got some more blanking plates here, which are going to go in here. Now, the unit is designed to be either top fed, fed from here, from the back, or you can feed it from the bottom this way here. So either back feed, bottom feed, but they actually designed it to be top fed. Now, you might be thinking, as an electrician, this is a disaster. Top fed units, it's going to let water in, it's going to get damaged. even if these gaskets leak, these gaskets that leak, it's been designed in a way that it can, if it lets water in, it's not going to damage the unit, and that is because of the way they've designed this bit here. In fact, if I bring it a bit closer to the camera, you'll be able to see it a bit better. But we have a little shelf here, the cables come in and they go down here and they get terminated up. So they're actually getting a loop here, so if the water does run in, this little windshield here will stop it, it'll go down, it'll drip off and fall down these cracks here, so it shouldn't get in anywhere near these electrical bits in the minute. Now the reason I'm really impressed with this backplate is it does a couple of things. So first of all, you can buy just this unit and just a front cover, and they call that Easee install or something along those lines. I'd have to double check, but I'll put a link down in the description below for what exactly it's called. But they do basically this unit backplate with a front faceplate. Now this can be useful for a couple of people. First of all, if you're at home and you're going to be having maybe 2 electric cars or 3 electric cars, or you know, a couple of electric cars in the future, you can buy one of these chargers today and one of these backplates today and have the electrician install both. Now the advantage of this means that you don't have to call the electrician back out when you get your second electric car, because you'll be able to fit the charger yourself, because the installer will install all this and all the services in the back, and that doesn't require an electrician to come back out to fit the final part of the charger, which we'll explain why in a minute. And that is because this little tag here. Now this little tag is programmed by the charger itself in a minute, and can be, all the backplates have this tag and are programmed. So if the installer comes and fits 2 of these backplates for you, he'll program both backplates with one charger, and it will know which one's the master and which one's the slave because of the way the software works, which is really clever. Now what's really clever is if you are a large site, and I mean particularly large, you can have an awful lot of these installed all at once by your engineer, which means that if you're a large site, you can just basically buy the chargers as and when, but have them all installed for a cheaper one call out installation cost. And that's because of the way this unit is made. It is one of the most cleverest units I've seen deal with stuff like this. Now, a couple of issues I do have with the backplate. First of all, not a fan of top entry, even though that they have thought of the way that's going to work. It's also, these screws here are all 3-phase, so all the backplates are 3-phase, but they're also not Wago style blocks. They have to be torque tightens. They've got, you know, they're not standard screw, and they're not torque tightened. That all the connections run in this. So if you have 3 chargers, you bring the first cable in, you bring your second cable out to the next charger, and it's wired into here. And this can actually say have 1 cable in and then going 2 out. So if you have 3 chargers, you'd have 1 here and 1 here. The first cable would come in here, and then 2 loop outs to your chargers, which means all 3 cables would be embedded in here, which I'm not a big fan of, because it might not be tightened properly, torque tightened, etc. And I prefer them to have more of a Wago style low maintenance free block. But they've done it this way because of the way it deals on commercial sites. So not the charge home version we've got here, more on the Easee charger version that they have. If you've got an industrial site, it means that it can do load balancing across phases. So it can actually, instead of everything being going on to phase 1, it will split the phases for each charger depending on what the load is. So if you have a load of 2, single phase cars come on, it will make sure they're all balanced across those phases, which is clever, really clever design, and I think that's why they've had to wire it in this manner. But I'm really quite impressed with how it is working. So here we're moving on to what we call the charge berry. Now the charge berry is the charger itself. This is the brains of the charger, and on it you have your pin number and serial codes for setting it all up. And they're a bit naughty because they sell this unit as a tethered and untethered charger on their website. All tethered is a untethered charger like this, and then you hit this little lock key here to make it a tethered charger, and that just locks the cable in the front of the charger. The problem is, if someone like a thief or a kid who knows about these chargers, or maybe watched one of these videos, comes along with this key, they can pull your face off, unclip this and steal your cable, which not ideal. But yeah, if you want to make it a tethered charger, you can put the cable in and lock it down, which is a fairly clever idea, to be fair. I mean, a lot of people do just leave cables in tethered chargers. There's a couple of other things this charge block can do which is quite clever. Like I said, your installer can install your backplates first, and then you can buy one of these chargers and install it yourself later, and that's because of these connections here. Now maybe if I just bring in the backplate again, these connections here go into these big holes here, and then you pull it down and it clicks in, and that makes that terminal connection into there. Again, being protected from water, these connections are tight in here and pulled down, and there is an extra ledge over here if the water is running again, so which should protect these from water damage. Now, it's important noting this one here, this charging robot, this charge berry that they call it, is two versions. They have a home version and a commercial version. Now, the home and commercial versions look identical. The home version can be linked up to 3 chargers, and the commercial version can be linked to 101 chargers, and it comes with free cloud management software, so it's a really strong offering of your commercial unit. All the chargers have 4G built in, all the chargers have Wi-Fi built in, all the chargers have RFID built in, so it's really quite well loaded. Now, a couple of issues. It doesn't have pen fault detection, so if you are buying this home unit, it does not have pen fault detection, so you'll need to install a separate device that can deal with pen fault. If you're an industrialist site, most industrial sites have their own earthing requirements, don't tend to need pen fault detection or their own, because they tend to be on their own earth mat. So for commercial properties, I like the way it deals with this multi-phase and load balancing, and the fact that the management software is free. Now let's move on to the very last part of this charger, and that is this front faceplate. And this front faceplate will clip over this and the main bit, and you have a nice little waterproof cover here to keep the socket nice and dry. You've got another little bit of waterproof there that goes under here, and you have a display here for this band of light here. Now, it isn't worth noting there is a button here which I'll explain when we do go to install it, which can be used to program and sync the charger. But basically this light band here does a couple of things. It will give charging status, but if you've got multiple chargers in the engineer setting up, it will have display lights to let you know which one's the master's and which one's the slave when setting it up. And again, like I said, all these bits fit together because this unit programs these tags, so when this charger comes out of this charger, so if you take this out, you take this off, and you put another charger in here, it's the base that knows it's the main charger, not the charger. The unit to install is pretty straightforward. Now, I went for the suggested top entry, but if you were going to have extra chargers in the future, then you'd loop out of this backplate to the next charger in the series. Having the backplate, charger and the front cover all separately does really make it easy to install. And as if you were having extra chargers, you'd only install an extra backplate next to this one and an extra backplate next to the next one and the next one. And because the charging berry inside programs all the backplates, the future chargers would only just need to be installed later on by the customer without another engineer visit. So as an engineer, if a customer has suggested to you they're going to get 2 EVs, you could in theory install 2 of these backplates or 3 of these backplates and only 1 of the physical charger, and the customer later on in the future could buy the charging berry and plug it in themselves without a re-engineer visit because you've already commissioned the backplates. The final commissioning process on this charger means that you're now going to use the Easee Installer app. Now you can read the backplate with your mobile phone by tapping it on the backplate's RFID reader, and then you can program it all in the cloud server ready to go for each unit. So you can program each charging berry, physical charging berry, to then read and program each of the rear backplates. So if you're having 101 chargers, you can use the one charging berry to plug in all 101 charger backplates, even if the customer is only having 1 or 2 or even 3 chargers installed the day you turned up. And the app really is simple and walks the installer right through that. So even if you've done the installer training app and you've forgotten, the app is really simple to understand and will walk you through. Now you'll set the total amps on the circuit that you're putting in. So if it's going to be a large site with 101 chargers, you'll set the total ampage of that cable coming in. If you're only putting in a couple of chargers, then you'll set the ampage of that. Now this does mean that it will have some sort of amp protection, fuse protection of that cable built into the main first charging berry, but it has not got dynamic load balancing, which means that if your customer has a DNO restriction on their load, then you won't be able to do any load balancing built in from this unit because there is no CT clamps. It can only manage what's coming into its own cable. Now I do think if you're installing this on a large site with lots of commercial units, this is probably going to be living up to its name of being easy to install, especially if the customer only wants to install 5 but possibly wants 20 chargers in the future. This does have the scalability for a customer to then just buy the charging berries all by themselves, and you commission all the backplates and fit all the backplates on your first site visit without a re-entry to the site. Some customers might want it to come back to reinitialize the charge berry or plug the charge berry in, but there is actually no need. So if you did come back, it could just be a very straightforward call out, very simple job for you just to plug that charging berry in if that's what your customer requires. It also is really clever if it's being installed on a 3-phase system. It will balance across the phases, meaning if you have lots of single phase cars plugged in, it won't all be using the same phase. They'll switch between each phase, and then if you have a 3-phase car plugged in, it will be balancing across that and the other single phase cars. And the way it does that switching is very unique to Easee, and I thought it was a really clever, well thought out system. Now when you've finished doing the main commissioning of the unit, at the end of the installer app it says transfer site to owner, and on this you can type the customer's telephone number in and it will text the customer all the details they need to know to set up their user account to access the charger. Now just make sure that you've set the current cable that comes in for this. You could set their Wi-Fi up, set their Wi-Fi up so they don't have to use the inbuilt SIM card in this. If you set all that up and install it, it will just make the customer's life a lot easier. But as soon as you hit that transfer, the customer can set all the rest of the settings in their own user app. Now looking at the customer app, it is pretty straightforward app. It's really well designed. I like the fact that right at the top right there's a little information logo that gives the customer all the user manual information in a quick, easy to understand guide, from explaining how the lights work, how to change things on the settings, how the charge scheduling works. It's just a really well thought out thing that other apps go into all this complexity and making the apps look really pretty, but there's no actual real user interface or how to use the charger and how things work. In this charger, the user app, it's very focused on explaining to the customer how it works. Now before I mentioned that you can turn this into a tethered unit, and to do that you basically just plug your own cable in the front of this, go into the software and press lock. Now unfortunately the design does mean that the cable does stick out quite a bit. Could have been done with more like an angle so the cable didn't have such a, you know, a stick out on the unit, which is why I do wish that they had a dedicated tethered unit with a bit more better cable management and the way the cable worked. But at the moment this is the way they're going. I do understand why they've done it. It does mean they've got a nice small neat looking unit, but it would be nice to have a tethered unit with a cable management built into the way it works. Now this charger obviously has Wi-Fi and also an inbuilt cellular SIM card, which means that you can schedule a charge pretty much from wherever you want. Now there's a couple of settings in the scheduling system which I quite like. First of all, you can set just a standard delay charge, say only charge from 12:30 at night, because that's when I get my cheap electricity, and it will just charge the car till completely full. So if you just want a full charge, you can just do a delayed charge. But if you only want to charge, say in your off-peak deal, for example Octopus Go, which is 5p from 12:30 to 4:30, then you just set start, end and end time for those two times, and it would start and end between those two times. So you wouldn't get a full charge, you just get what's available in those hours. So I like the fact that there is two options, either a full delay charge or a start here and end here charge, which is a really good idea, seeing it doesn't have any app integration with the car to know what the car is charging at. But this is a really good solution. I really like the way they've implemented it. They unfortunately at the moment don't have any integration to work with Octopus Agile system or any of their other invented tariffs like Octopus Intelligent that I've just covered in a recent video. However, the charger is OCPP, which means it should be capable of doing other things with other apps like Octopus Intelligent and other charging apps which work with Octopus Agile. It would be nice to see Easee maybe publish a list of apps you can use that work with their OCP system. OCPP is basically the Open Charge Protocol, and that means that other apps can integrate with their API to turn on and off your charger. But it needs to be an approved partner by Easee, and they do really need to publish a list, or at least show it in the app, on what other OCPP apps work with this charger. Now in the customer app, you can change a few user settings. You can change your Wi-Fi login, you can change the way it works on phases, you can even reboot the charger and change the way the LED and the LED brightness works on this, which is a nice little touch that other people haven't done on their app. Now home and business users have the option of turning on the RFID for authentication to make the charger work. Well, this is a really, really nice touch for security, but it also means that you can do a couple of other things. Now, first of all, you can use your own RFID card. You can use any RFID card you want because it doesn't come supplied with any. You could use your Tesco Club card, you could use your juice card from Octopus, you could use any RFID card, and you can load it into their app either by scanning it with your NFC phone or telling the charger you want to scan an RFID card on the charger, in which case you hit the option to scan your own RFID card and you tap it on the charger. Now where this gets really, really clever is if you're a business user and you use RFID cards for your staff passes to get business access into the building, so they have an RFID card to get in a building, you can send a bulk list of those RFID cards with the usernames or the anonymous ID of each of those member of employees to Easee. They will upload all those RFID tags into their system, and it means that if you are looking for a way of managing HMRC benefit in kind, if they're charging at work and you want that to be a tax declaration, you can monitor that charging on Easee's system with those RFID cards, and only them can start it with those RFID cards, and that business management system is free of charge for the life of the charger. Another way you could use it is if you're a hotel and you have RFID cards to get in the hotel rooms, you could set each of those hotel room cards to also access the RFID on this charger. So if you have certain hotel rooms that include free charging, you could set those hotel rooms to have those RFID cards to work on those set chargers outside, or if they have set parking spaces at a golf club. The way you could use these RFID cards for a large commercial premises is really, really clever. A couple of letdowns for the home user: there is no CT clamps, which means that you can't do any solar matching, and if you have a battery you can't do any matching or management of that on this, because there is basically no way of attaching a separate CT clamp to this at the current moment in the way it's made. It also means that there is also no dynamic load balancing, which means that if you have a set amp fuse, that it will not react to the house supply and vice versa. And that is a really large limitation, I think, on this unit, and a bit of an oversight which I hope that they do bring out in future generations of this unit. In summary, it's a really good looking charge point. It's got the right size, it looks nice, it's got a really nice design, even though it looks like a certain brand of hand dryer. I'm sure you can probably figure out who I mean by that, but it's really well designed. I just think that from a home point of view, it's missing the fact that it hasn't got pen fault detection, and I think that's going to be a real issue for certain installers and also for certain types of builds. But if you've got enough room to put a separate pen fault device, then it might not bother you at all having this extra circuitry in another part of your house. But for a commercial point of view, as an installer or a business, it is a really good idea, the fact you can install so many chargers on one circuit. The fact that the management software is free for the life of the charger is also a really, really good benefit. And I can see that a lot of commercial installers and also commercial businesses will want these chargers because they live up to their name of being easy to install. But the home front, again, is also let down by a couple of other factors. The fact that they only sell this as an untethered charger. They don't sell a tethered version, which I just think that they should, so you can have better cable management around the charger, and the charger would just look a bit neater on a wall rather than a physical cable locked in all the time and poking out. I also am a little bit disappointed that the OCPP part of the charger, they don't list which apps, which partners they work with their OCPP, and it would be nice to be able to see which apps you can link up with OCPP and their API compatible parts of that. Sorry if I've lost anyone with that bit, but basically I'd like to see them partner up with Octopus Intelligent, for example, to use their new OCPP compatible tariff that they've got for cheaper, longer electricity than ever before. It's also going to be one of the easiest chargers to upgrade to if you're going to get more chargers. So I really like the fact that they've really thought about free phase straight away, the fact that you can connect multiple chargers from one circuit. It's just very, very well thought out. Are you thinking of getting one of these chargers? Then go over to eveenic.com/charge, where we'll find you a local installer to get a charger like this, or a national installer to get a charger like this installed at your house. If you're thinking of getting a charger, don't forget to check out the other playlists of chargers on my channel and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very, very much, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.